Welcome back. In tonight's Future of Everything, we're talking about China versus the U.S. when it comes to electric vehicles. Turns out the competition between the two countries is not even close. Last year, China made up 70% of the global manufacturing of EVs, according to the International Energy Agency. But it doesn't stop there. The U.S. only makes about 7% of global EV sales compared to China's almost 67%. Talk about dominant, right? So why is China so far ahead when it comes to electric vehicles? To help us figure it out, we are joined by editor-in-chief of Inside EVs, Patrick George. Patrick, thank you so much for being here, especially on a Friday.
Thanks for having me, Elson.
So look, some of these stats are surprising to me because I think I'm like a lot of Americans where when I think of EVs, I do think of Tesla first because it feels like anyone I know who has an electric car has a Tesla. But it seems like they're not really leading the pack here. How is China so far ahead?
Not globally anymore. This is a fascinating country because it established a lead, decades ago before this was on anyone's real radar. You have a lot of people think that this was just the result of immense government subsidies and state investment. It was a lot more than that. A lot of these car companies in China, they started as cell phone companies or battery companies and then branched into cars. They have a big tech lead. And, there's intense competition in that country among so many brands. A lot of innovation happened very, very quickly there.
So in terms of the brands that people might not know, when we talk about Chinese manufacturers, people selling them, who are we talking about?
I think the big one that most Americans might recognize is called BYD, which has become really like a global powerhouse that's moving very quickly into the rest of the world. Another one I think is really interesting is called XPeng or Xiaopeng. I've heard both. But it's doing all of the software and electrical systems for Volkswagen Group's cars in China. So VW Group basically said, we don't know what we're doing anymore. You guys handle technology for us from now on, which is pretty game-changing, I think.
And in China, they now have like 5-minute chargers, right? Which is insane. I understand you were able to try one of those out. What was that experience like? And in terms of comparing it to the United States, is there a chance we could see something comparable here?
I did get to see this a few months ago. I was at the Shanghai Auto Show and one reporter to another. Like, it was one of those stories where, like, I have to see this before I leave. I'm going to kick down some doors. And I kind of talked my way into an event in Beijing where they were doing a demonstration for this technology. I was the only Western journalist there. And I watched it happen. It was incredible. I mean, not even getting up to the speeds, like 1,000 kilowatt speeds to 5-minute fast charge a car, but ticking up to that point, it was the fastest charging I'd ever seen. It was incredible.
Insane.
Yeah.
Do you think we could see that in the U.S. in terms of our own technology, or is it that China is so outpacing us in terms of manufacturing and sales that you just have to hope maybe those products come to the U.S. instead of a U.S.-developed one?
A lot of companies are trying to catch up. I know that Mercedes-Benz is working on megawatt charging, it's called, those super high speeds. But I'm not sure, with tax credits going away and, fuel economy rules kind of being erased by the current administration, there's a possibility that our automakers are sort of back off on this technology, but that means they could get displaced by a new competitor from China down the line.
Okay, I want to play for you. I'm going to go back to Tesla for a minute and play for everyone what Elon Musk had to say back in 2011 about BYD, and then I want to get your reaction after. Let's listen.
Although there's competitors now ramping up, and as you're familiar with BYD, which is also on the West Coast, I think they're ramping up production of their electric vehicles. Warren Buffett owns 10% stake in that. Why do you laugh? BYD is trying to compete. Why do you laugh?
Have you seen their car?
I have seen their cars, yes. In fact, at the Berkshire Hathaway meeting, I saw their cars.
Yeah.
Well, they are on a different... Tell me why you're laughing. You don't see them at all as a competitor?
No.
Why is that? I mean, they offer a lower price point.
I don't think they have a great product.
Are they getting the last laugh?
Yeah, I think so. But the thing is, that was from 2011, and back then he wasn't wrong, and he wasn't alone. I mean, a lot of us had that opinion. We would see these Chinese cars sometimes at auto shows in America, always in the lobby, never on the main floor. We kind of made fun of them a lot. And give it a decade, and it was the ultimate example of why you don't underestimate your competition.
Fascinating stuff. Patrick George, thank you for being here. Excited to see more of your reporting on this. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.